So now that we've seen the account test class and the account class, let's take a moment to talk about how we created this project initially, and then I'm going to run the project as well, and I'll also do so in the context of the debugger so that we can see how program control bounces back and forth between this main method and the methods of class account. So first of all, when we were creating the project initially, we went to the File menu and selected New Project. And within the Visual C# Windows Classic Desktop category, we selected Console Application, just as we did for the examples in the preceding lesson. Then we named our project. In this case, we named it Account 1. And just so that I don't collide with other versions of the Account 1 project, I'm going to call it Account 1 New for the purpose of this video. Now, by default, you're going to have that project placed into your Visual Studio 2015 projects folder within your documents folder on your system, but you of course can change that. And for the purpose of the examples within this lesson, we have 4 of them, and we named them Account 1, Account 2, Account 3, and Account 4 respectively. So if I go ahead and click OK, it will create the initial project, and by default it gives me a class called program in a file called program.cs. You can see the class here. You can see the main method, and of course we've been renaming our classes to make them a little more descriptive, and we've also been removing this parameter within the main method because we don't need it in these early programs. So to rename that, the way we did that was to rename the source code file here in Solution Explorer. So we called that account test. And when I press enter, the IDE asks me if I also want to perform this rename throughout the project, which I do. And it not only renames the file, but it also renames the class account test as well. In general, even though this is not required, the convention is that a given .cs file has the same name as whatever class is defined within that file. It is possible for one file to contain many class definitions, but by convention we typically define one class per file. In fact, as you'll see in later lessons, it's possible to divide up one class across many files to help make the code more manageable as well. Now, of course, in the version of class account test that I showed you in the preceding videos, we did not have lines 7 and 8. We did not have line 15 that wrap the class definition. That namespace is unnecessary for these earlier examples. You can delete it if you want to, but you're not required to. All you need to do is take whatever I had in my main method and place it inside the curly braces of main here. Now, separately, we had another class that we defined, which was the account class. And to create that, we right-clicked on the project name here in the Solution Explorer and selected Add Class. And you can see there's also a shortcut for doing that. When you click Class, it automatically gives you the Add New Item dialog with class already selected. And all you need to do down here is type the new name of the class that you want to create. And of course, we named it Account. So if I go ahead and click Add, it creates that file, it opens the file, it gives me a shell empty class declaration, and again, if you don't need the namespaces, you can delete them. You want to make sure for all of the classes within the project that you delete them if you're going to do that. And within the curly braces of class account, here is where we would go ahead and start declaring our class accounts members. So if we wanted the private instance variable name, we can start typing private. You'll notice it gives us this IntelliSense here. So if I just hit tab, it'll auto complete that for me, and then I can start typing string, and then I can type the variable name and put in a semicolon. And similarly, if I want to start typing public for the setName method, I can go ahead and start defining that. It doesn't give you IntelliSense for your method name because it doesn't know what you want that to be. But notice as soon as I type the left parenthesis, it automatically types the right parenthesis. So it gives you this IntelliSense capability as you write your code, and auto completion as well. Similarly, if I go ahead and hit enter and then put in a left curly brace, it automatically puts a right curly brace, and I can just hit enter to automatically start typing the body. So of course you would take the actual code for the class account and place it into the body of the class account here. Now I'm going to go back over to the final version of the project, and let me go ahead and open that here. So we have the final version that we were working with previously, and the reason I'm doing that is I would like to go ahead and execute this program now. You have a couple of things you can do for executing the program, and we demonstrated these to you in the preceding lesson as well. You can see here that we have a build menu where we can build the solution to make sure that it's compiling correctly. And we also have this debug menu with a couple of different options, one to start debugging and one to start without debugging. Now when I ran the program initially, I typed Control F5, which is the same as selecting start without debugging. And what that allows me to do is to run the program here and to leave on the screen the results once the program terminates. The IDE is displaying this press any key to continue. On the other hand, if I run with debugging, which I can do with this start button on the toolbar, or I can select start debugging from the debug menu or press F5, when I do that and the program terminates, you'll see as I press enter that the window vanishes immediately and I'm brought back into the IDE. When you run in debug mode, it's important that you go ahead and set a breakpoint so that you can control the walkthrough of the program's execution. So to do a breakpoint, we're going to click in the gray bar over here at the left side of the editor window, and you'll notice it gives me a red stop symbol, and then it also highlights that line of code indicating that it is a breakpoint. And when you start debugging and have breakpoints enabled, the first breakpoint that's encountered, the program will stop executing at that point, highlight it in yellow by default, show you an arrow indicating that's the statement that's going to execute next, and it puts the IDE into debug mode where we have this autos window where we can see the values of variables that are being used in memory. We have this diagnostic tools window where we can see, for example, how much memory is being used, how much processor time is being used. We have the method call stack that shows what methods are executing at any given time, and other capabilities as well. Lots of different tabs down the bottom here that we can select from. Now I'm going to step my way through the program so you can see program control, and also so that I can show you things like the default initial value of the string instance variable name within the account object. Now, as of right now, my account hasn't actually been initialized yet. So to initialize that, I'm going to step over the current line of code, which will execute that line in its entirety. So once I do that, we can see that my account now has as its value an account object, and it also has this arrow that we can click, which enables us to see the contents of that object. Those contents include, as I zoom in here, a name instance variable, and notice this icon here. This indicates that it's a private instance variable. That little lock sign indicates that it's private. And that's important for you to know because, of course, client code, that is any code that uses an account object, cannot see the variable name. Only the myAccount object internally can see that variable. Now, name initially is null, and that's why when we executed line 13 the first time, nothing appeared to the right of this colon. So I'm going to step into the getName method so that you can see indeed that it is returning the value null. To step in, I'm going to use this icon or press F11. And now we're in the getName method. It shows me how much time elapsed in making that method call, and it shows me that we're now entering the body of that method. So if I step over the curly brace, and now I'm about to return whatever the current value of name is, and I can hover over that to see that name is null. I can even go ahead and pin that right there to keep it on my screen at all times if I want to, and of course if I want I can get rid of it as well. I can also see that down here in the autos window. So name is in scope right now, so it pops up over here, and its current value is null. So that's what I'm returning back to the caller. And I can use this step out to complete the execution of getName and return that value to the caller. When I do, it tells me what was just returned from this method, null, and that's what's going to be inserted in this string interpolation expression. When you interpolate the value null, nothing gets inserted into the string, and that's why we got nothing to the right of that colon. So when I step over that and now go look at my output window, we can see initial name is with nothing to the right. So now we go back in and we're going to prompt the user for input, and then we're going to read a line of text, and I'm going to step over that as well. And now it's waiting for that input. So let's say I type Bob Blue again, and when I press enter, the program stops once again. And now I can go ahead and see what's going to happen as I set the name. So if I hover over the name, we can see Bob Blue is the value that's going to get passed into the setName method. Let's step in so we can see that. And as we get into our source code here, we can see that we're in the body of the setName method. I hover over the parameter account name, and it tells me that the value of account name is currently Bob Blue. This doesn't matter at the moment because we're not using the getName method. So Bob Blue is the account name value, and you can see name is still null because we have not yet given it a value. So I'm going to pin that up, and I'm also going to pin up the account name value here, so we can see the two different variables in this line of code. And as I step over the curly brace and now step one more time over that assignment, now we see that name's value is Bob Blue. Account name is still the value Bob Blue as well. We can see name updated down here in the autos window. And we also see this entry called this, which stands for this account object that we're currently manipulating. And if we look inside, we can see it's Bob Blue there as well. So now we've set the name, and as we return back to the caller, let's go ahead and get rid of these little tooltips once again. Now we've set the name inside of the MyAccount object, and we can look at the MyAccount object and see that it contains Bob Blue. So that at line 21, as we now step down to that and go into getName once again, if we hover over, we can see that name contains Bob Blue, and therefore that is the string that will be returned back to the caller. So I'll jump back to the caller, and now we'll execute this line of code by stepping over it once. And as I stop there, the program hasn't terminated yet because I haven't executed the curly brace. So I can now go look at my output window to see that indeed the account object contained Bob Blue. And now if I go back into the program and I say to step out of main, the program will terminate, and now I'm back into the regular editor mode, and I can see my breakpoint still, which I can get rid of simply by clicking the icon over in the left side. Or if I want to keep the breakpoint, I could right click it and just disable that if I don't want to use it, but I want to keep it for the future as well. So at this point, we've now created our first class from which we were able to then create an object, and then used that class in a client application that tested out its capabilities. And as we proceed forward now through the rest of the lesson, we're going to take a look at how we can enhance this class definition.